Once upon a time, in the thriving city of Abuja, there lived the Maduka family, made up of a mother and her two sons, Chima the elder sibling and Kanu the younger one. Chima worked as a secretary in the Abuja State Treasury. He was extremely wealthy and owned various properties across the state. With his money, he took care of the family and paid for Kanu's education and master's degree. Their mother, who was growing old, often called Chima and said to him, "My son, you are not getting younger, and I am also not getting younger. It's high time you got married. I want to be able to hold my grandkids in my hands before I leave this earth." But Chima would always smile and reply, "Mama, stop pressuring me to get married. Do you think I don't want to get married? I will soon bring home a woman so that you can be happy. It's just that I haven't found the right one yet." "Okay, I have heard you," his mom would say. "But I just want you to find one sooner because time waits for nobody. Do you want to be 70 years old when your children are entering high school?" Chima would always laugh this off and say, "Mama, you joke too much." A year later, Chima traveled to Harbia State to visit his grandparents and attend a family meeting. During this visit, he met Sharon, a beautiful 25-year-old Igbo woman who was a tailor. She had a 5-year-old daughter, Precious, from a previous relationship with a man who had promised her the whole world, but after getting her pregnant, he fled. He claimed that he didn't have enough money to take care of himself, not to talk of both Sharon and her daughter. This she told Chima, and he sympathized with her. Chima instantly fell in love with Sharon, and after multiple dates with her, he finally asked her out. "Sharon, I like you," Chima said. "Would you please make me the happiest man on earth by being my girlfriend?" Sharon smiled shyly and replied, "Yes, I will." Sharon's parents had passed away at a very young age, so she had no family to introduce Chima to. While Chima, on the other hand, introduced Sharon to his grandparents who were living in Harbia. They liked her, accepted her, and gave both of them their blessings. Later that evening, Chima said to Sharon, "Why don't you move to Abuja with me? Nothing is keeping you here in Harbia," he said. Sharon agreed and replied, "That's true. I don't even have family members here, so I see no issue with that." Therefore, Sharon moved with her daughter, Precious, to live in Abuja with Chima. When Chima introduced Sharon to his mother, she was happy at first. "Finally, Chima, you've brought a woman home," his mother said. But when she learned that Sharon was a single mother, her smile faded. She asked Chima to meet her in the room for a quick conversation. "Chima, are you sure about this?" she asked. "It's not easy to marry someone who already has a child," his mother said. Chima replied, "Mama, Sharon makes me happy. Her having a child is not an issue since I have decided to raise Precious as my child. Please give us your blessing." Though she wasn't fully happy about it, Chima's mother did not oppose the relationship because she knew how hard it was for Chima to fall in love. When Sharon settled in Abuja, she asked Chima, "Please, can I continue working as a tailor? I don't want to be a burden to you financially," she said. But Chima shook his head and said, "No, Sharon. I want you to stay home and take care of Precious and the house. I make enough money for all of us, so you being a burden to me isn't even an issue." Sharon agreed and started taking care of the house while also learning to cook new dishes in her free time. A year passed by and Chima proposed to Sharon. "Sharon, will you marry me?" he asked, holding out a ring. Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, yes, I will," she exclaimed. They returned to Harbia for a traditional wedding and got to spend a lot of time there. After the wedding, they went on a honeymoon and spent more time together. But during this period, Chima and Kanu began to grow apart. Chima had stopped giving Kanu money and funding his lifestyle. "Kanu, you're a grown man now," Chima said to him. "It's time for you to find a job and take care of your own needs by yourself like a real man would." After Chima made this statement, Kanu stormed out of the house in anger, feeling that someone had to have influenced the new change in his brother. When Sharon heard about this, she said, "Chima, I know Kanu is an adult, but he's still your younger brother. You should help him and assist him in becoming a responsible man like yourself." But Chima shook his head and responded, "If I keep helping him, he will never stand on his feet like a man." A year after their marriage, Chima was diagnosed with brain cancer, the same illness that had taken his father's life. During this period, Sharon was already 2 months pregnant with Chima's child. They spent most of their money on Chima's treatment, but sadly, 4 months later, Chima passed away. During his final moment, Sharon made a statement. "I'll make sure our child knows how wonderful you were, Chima," she said softly as she held her stomach. Sharon sat on the edge of her bed, staring blankly into the air. Her heart felt like a stone in her chest as memories of her late husband Chima flooded her mind. He had been her anchor, her partner, and her hope. Now she was left alone, 6 months pregnant, with no clear path forward. Her 7-year-old daughter, Precious, played quietly in the corner, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in their lives. 2 days later, Sharon went to the property transfer office and found out that the wealth and properties of her husband were still in his brother's name, Kanu. This was caused by the fact that he had forgotten to change it due to his untimely death, leaving not a single penny to Sharon, Precious, and her unborn child. 2 weeks after Chima's burial, Sharon gathered her courage and approached her brother-in-law, Kanu, for assistance. She needed help just enough to start a small business and support her children. But Kanu was ruthless to her. His words cut through her deep like a knife. "Sharon," he said coldly, "you're the reason my brother died an untimely death, and don't think that I believe for a second that the child in your belly is his. As for your daughter Precious, she is not even my brother's child, so I owe her nothing." He went on to accuse her of causing the broken bond between him and his late brother Chima, claiming that she influenced his late brother to stop giving him money, since Chima changed only after he married her. Sharon was stunned. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of him. "Kanu, please, I have nowhere else to go. Even if you don't want to gift me any property, can you at least lend me a small amount of money to open a shop and continue my tailoring business? I promise to repay you after I have made profits," she said desperately. Instead of compassion, Kanu laughed bitterly. He said, "So you want me to lend you money after telling my brother to stop giving me money? You also told him that I'm a grown-up man and I should not depend on him for funds, but now you are asking me to lend you money to open a shop." Sharon decided to go back home to think of a solution on what to do following the rejection from her brother-in-law. But Kanu followed her to his late brother's house. On getting there, he said, "This house belongs to me now, so I'm giving you just 1 hour to go pack your things, take your child, and leave." When Sharon heard this, she protested, saying, "The house belongs to her late husband Chima, and Kanu has no right to send her away." After this remark, Kanu decided to call some hooligans to help move her belongings from his late brother's house to the street. As she tried to resist them, Kanu pushed her violently, and she fell, hitting her belly on the table. The sharp pain that followed was unbearable, and immediately she fainted. Hours later, she woke up to Precious lying down beside her in the hospital, only to receive devastating news: she had lost the baby. Homeless and broken, Sharon wandered the streets of Abuja with Precious. Every door she knocked on was slammed in her face, but she eventually met Alaji, a wealthy man who offered them shelter. Sharon hesitated to receive Alaji's help because she felt a creepy vibe from the way he talked to her and Precious, but due to the situation at hand, she had no choice. The house was grand, and Precious seemed happy, but Sharon soon noticed Alaji's strange interest in her daughter. He was always finding excuses to be around Precious, and often touched her inappropriately under the guise of affection. One night, Sharon overheard a conversation between Alaji and a friend. The vile things they said confirmed her worst fears. He was a predator. Without a second thought, she packed her belongings and fled Alaji's house in the dead of night. Exhausted and desperate, Sharon stumbled upon a building with a sign that read, "Women's Aid and Rehabilitation Network, WARN." Inside, she was greeted warmly by women who listened to her story with understanding, sympathized with her, and promised to help her. WARN offered her a place to stay and promised to help her get back on her feet. They even arranged for Precious to attend a boarding school, giving Sharon the space to rebuild her life. Over the next 5 years, Sharon worked tirelessly within WARN. She started as a volunteer but quickly climbed the ranks. Her passion for helping others and her resilience made her a natural leader. By the time she was 32, she had already become a key figure in the organization. And Precious, now 13, was thriving in school. Meanwhile, news broke of a massive fraud scandal involving Chima's former workplace. Investigations revealed that millions had been embezzled under his name. The authorities seized all his properties, including those now owned by Kanu. To make matters worse for Kanu, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, Just like his late brother and father, it seemed like that the disease was hereditary, and they did not know it. Since the disease was in its early stages in Kanu, it was still treatable, but due to the loss of properties he owned, he had no money for the required treatments. Desperate, he began doing petty jobs, selling everything he could to stay alive. He needed a loan of 5 million naira to cure himself of this disease, but due to a lack of properties to guarantor for him to take out the loan, no loan organization wanted to borrow him money. During this period, Warren decided to expand its mission. Sharon was appointed director of a new initiative, Hope, Aid, and Recovery Foundation, HARF, which was an organization that was based in Lagos. HARF specializes in granting loans, creating job opportunities for the less privileged, and helping others in dire need. Sharon relocated to Lagos with Precious, who enrolled in another boarding school. Life seemed to finally be falling into place for Sharon. In Lagos, she met Emmanuel, a 34-year-old handsome doctor. He was kind, intelligent, and deeply caring. They began dating, and Sharon slowly opened up about her painful past relationships. Emmanuel was supportive, and their bond grew stronger with time. Meanwhile, while strolling on the streets of Abuja, Kanu came across a newspaper stand. He decided to buy a paper to get updated about the events and developments in the country. On the third page of the newspaper, Kanu read about HARF, an organization that gives loans to the less privileged and helps the needy get back on their feet. Desperate for help, he used his last savings to take a night bus to the city of Lagos. He then went to the company and tried requesting a loan, but could not get an appointment because HARF had a policy of prioritizing women over men. This policy was put in place because HARF is under the Warren Organization, a company that focuses on rehabilitation for women. He then decided to visit a general hospital for a checkup to see how bad his condition was. Upon opening the door of the consultant's office, he met Emmanuel, Sharon's boyfriend. During their consultation, Kanu poured out his woes. Touched by his story, Emmanuel handed him a card and encouraged him to visit HARF again and show the receptionist his card. Kanu hesitated at first, but had no other option. The next day, Kanu walked into HARF with the card in his hands. He was directed to the company director's office to get his loan approved. Upon entering, he froze, shocked by who he saw. It was Sharon. Their eyes met, and a wave of recognition passed between them. Kanu, recognizing that Sharon was the director of HARF, fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Sharon," he whispered, "I was wrong. Please forgive me. I was blinded by greed, which made me maltreat you and your daughter, Precious. Can you please find it in your heart to forgive me?" Sharon's heart hardened. Memories of her miscarriage and the humiliation she endured flooded her mind. "You think a simple apology can erase the pain you caused me?" she said, her voice trembling with emotion and tears flowing down her cheeks. Kanu begged for forgiveness, but Sharon refused to forgive him. She also declined his loan application. He continued to plead and refused to leave, which made Sharon call in the security guards to chase Kanu out. Upon their arrival, he got up from his knees, bowing his head in shame as he left Sharon's office. That evening, she told Emmanuel about the encounter. Emmanuel, who was surprised, replied, "That's unforeseen. I had no idea that the man I tried to help was the one who maltreated my woman and made her experience intolerable suffering." But due to Emmanuel's forgiving nature, after pondering the issue, he became the voice of reason and urged Sharon to reconsider. "Sharon," he said gently, "forgiveness isn't for him, it's for you. Let go of the bitterness and help him. It's what you've always done. Help others, even when it's hard." The next day, Sharon called Kanu to her office. She said to him, "I am not forgiving you because I am a good person, but because your brother treated me well when we were married, and I wouldn't want to escort his only living sibling to the grave." She then collected his form, approved his application, and arranged for his treatment. Emmanuel personally oversaw Kanu's care, and within months, he was cancer-free. Grateful and humbled, Kanu turned over a new leaf. With Sharon's help, he secured a job and began rebuilding his life in Lagos. One evening, 3 months later, as Sharon returned home after a particularly fulfilling day at work, she found Emmanuel waiting for her. The living room was beautifully decorated with fairy lights, and the air smelled of fresh roses. On the coffee table was a small velvet box. Emmanuel, dressed in a sharp suit, knelt before her as she entered. "Sharon," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You are the most incredible woman I have ever met. You have faced challenges that would have broken many, yet you rose above them with grace and strength. I want to be by your side for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Sharon's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Emmanuel. 1,000 times yes." Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love, resilience, and new beginnings. Precious stood proudly as her mother's maid of honor, and Sharon's colleagues from Warren and Harf filled the venue with their warm wishes. Even Kanu, now a changed man, attended, offering his heartfelt congratulations and gratitude to the couple. They began a joyful life together and lived happily ever after, which eventually became even more fulfilling with the addition of twins to their family.